have no idea what it looks like yet. It's easy to become discouraged in the waiting. When things aren't happening the way you expected or in the time you thought they would, it can feel like everything is falling apart, but that's when you need to hold on to one truth. God is always working behind the scenes. Just because you can't see the progress doesn't mean there isn't any. Think about how seeds grow. When a seed is planted in the ground, you don't see what's happening beneath the surface. Yet beneath the soil, it's growing its roots, preparing for the day it will sprout above the surface. You may feel like you're buried right now, like you're waiting for something to happen, but in reality, God is deepening your roots, strengthening you, and setting you up for the incredible growth that's coming. So when you're stuck in a waiting season, don't lose heart. Know that every delay, every moment of waiting is a part of God's perfect plan for your life. He is not wasting your time. He's preparing you for something far greater than you can imagine. The things you can't see, the steps you don't understand, are all leading to the breakthrough you've been praying for. We also have to remember that God works in ways we can't always comprehend. We want things to happen now, but He has a bigger picture in mind. His timing is always right, even when it feels delayed or different from what we thought it would be. When we trust God's timing, we open ourselves up to the possibility of receiving things we never expected, things that we wouldn't have been ready for if things had happened according to our plan. Take Joseph's story as a reminder. He went through betrayal, imprisonment, and heartache, but all of those experiences were part of the plan that God had for him. Joseph didn't understand it while it was happening, but when everything came together, he saw how each part of his journey was crucial to the bigger picture. The waiting wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Joseph's character and faith were being built for the moment when he would be placed in the position he was destined for. God does the same thing for us. Every challenge, every disappointment, every unexpected turn of events is part of His shaping process. He isn't just leaving us in the waiting room for no reason. He's making us ready. So if you're waiting for something, don't despair. Don't think that your waiting is in vain. God is using this time to equip you for what's coming. And when the time is right, He will open the doors that no one can shut. Remember that what you're experiencing today is shaping you for tomorrow. The person you are becoming in this season is just as important as what you're waiting for. In those moments when everything seems uncertain, remember that God is at work. Even when you don't see it, He is behind the scenes preparing you for the blessings that are coming. And when you feel like you can't see the way forward or when you're unsure of what's next, trust that God sees what you can't. He is already ahead of you, paving the way, and you don't have to have all the answers. Just take the next step in faith, knowing that He is with you, guiding you. You don't have to understand everything because God has it all under control. The only thing you need to do is trust Him. God is bigger than your uncertainty. He is greater than your doubts. He is not only with you in the waiting, but He is working through it to bring about His perfect plan for your life. The unknown may feel scary, but it's in those moments that you can experience God's faithfulness in a deeper way. When you don't know the way forward, you can trust that He is leading you. He is your guide, and He will never lead you astray. When you find yourself in a season of uncertainty, don't try to control everything. Don't try to predict every step. Just focus on taking the next step. Trust that God is already ahead of you, preparing the way. And remember, you don't have to know everything. God already knows what's ahead, and He is faithful to lead you into it. You might feel like you're standing still, like nothing is happening, but don't be fooled by appearances. In those quiet moments, in the seasons of waiting, God is doing something inside you. He's preparing you for the blessings that are to come. Every delay is part of His perfect plan. Every season, no matter how uncertain it may feel, is part of His work in your life. So, if you're waiting, trust that God is at work. If you're uncertain, know that God has already planned the next steps. Trust that He knows exactly what you need and when you need it. And when it feels like things are taking longer than you thought, remember that God's timing is always perfect. He knows the best time for you to receive His blessings, and He will make sure you're ready when that time comes. Don't be afraid of the unknown. Embrace it with confidence. knowing that God is with you. He is not surprised by the uncertainty you're feeling. He is not thrown off course by the twists and turns of your life. He is leading you through it all, and in the end you will look back and see how every moment, every challenge, and every season of waiting was part of His perfect plan for your life. So take a deep breath, trust in God's plan, and know that He is working all things together for your good. The unknown is not something to fear. It's the place where God will reveal His greatness, and when you step into it with faith, you'll discover that He was with you all along, guiding you every step of the way. Don't doubt it, and when the right time comes, God will pour out blessings upon you that will surpass anything you ever thought possible. Keep trusting, keep growing, because the work you're doing to prepare yourself is positioning you for the breakthrough that's coming your way. There's something powerful that occurs when we choose faith over fear. Fear wants to paralyze you, making you question your future, doubt your purpose, and second-guess every decision you make. Fear will try to convince you that the unknown is too risky, too dangerous, and that you're not equipped for what lies ahead. But faith doesn't just recognize the unknown, it steps into it with confidence, knowing that God is already there. Let's be honest, fear is natural. It's human to be scared of what you can't see, to be anxious about things that are beyond your control. But here's the truth, fear is a liar. Fear tells you that you're not enough, that you won't make it, and that you're too small to handle the challenge. But faith reminds you that God is enough, that He has already gone ahead of you, and that you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. Think about Peter walking on water. He stepped out of the boat in the middle of a storm, a situation that seemed impossible. For a while, his faith kept him walking on the water. But as soon as fear took over, he began to sink. Faith keeps you afloat, but fear will pull you under. You don't need to know what comes next to take the next step. All you need is to step out in faith, trusting that God is right there with you, even in the unknown. Fear will always try to convince you that you're not ready, that you're not capable. But faith will tell you that with God, you're more than ready for what's ahead. The fear of the unknown may try to keep you stuck, but faith in the one who holds your future will propel you forward, even when you can't see the whole picture. So today, choose faith over fear. Step into the unknown with confidence, knowing that God has already gone ahead of you and is preparing the way. Don't let fear control your actions. Let faith guide you to the breakthrough that's waiting for you. There will be times when you feel uncertain about where you're headed. You might look at your circumstances and wonder if you're on the right path or if you've missed your chance. It's easy to feel lost when the road ahead is unclear, but I want to remind you today, your purpose is secure in God's hands. You're not here by accident. God didn't create you for random events or pointless wandering. From the very beginning, He knew you, your purpose, your destiny, and the unique gifts He placed inside you. Even when you can't see it, your purpose is unfolding according to God's perfect plan. Think about Esther. She was just an ordinary girl in an extraordinary situation, facing challenges and fears that seemed impossible to overcome. Yet in the midst of it all, God had a purpose for her, to save her people. Esther didn't initially know her purpose, but when the time came, it was revealed, and she rose to the occasion. Her purpose was secure even when she didn't fully understand it. Your purpose is secure too. It's not based on your circumstances, your mistakes, or your doubts. It's founded on the truth that God has already prepared good works for you to do, as it says in Ephesians 2:10. You might not know all the steps ahead, but trust this. The steps you take today are leading you toward fulfilling the purpose God has for you. Don't let confusion or setbacks make you think your purpose has been lost or delayed. God's plan for you is unshakable. He is working behind the scenes, lining things up and orchestrating events to bring you to the place where your purpose will be fully realized. Trust Him in every season of uncertainty. Stand firm today, knowing that even in the waiting, the work you're doing is part of the bigger purpose God has for you. You are exactly where you need to be, and nothing can take away the purpose God has already planned for your life. Change. It's one of the most intimidating words in our vocabulary. The idea of stepping into something new, something unknown, can cause fear and doubt. We are creatures of habit, and when things feel comfortable, we tend to resist change. But I want you to hear this today. Change is not your enemy. It's the catalyst for your growth. God doesn't allow change in your life just to stir things up. He uses change to prepare you for bigger and better things. When God shifts your situation, it's not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something new, something better is on the way. You may not see it yet, but God knows exactly what He's doing. The change you fear is often the very thing you need to take you to the next level. Think about Abraham. When God called him to leave everything behind and go to an unknown land, Abraham didn't know exactly where he was going or what he'd find, but he trusted that God was leading him to something greater. Change was the door to the promise. When faced with change, the temptation is to cling to what we know and hold on to what feels safe. But God often calls us to step into the unknown because that's where faith grows, where His power is revealed, and where new opportunities and blessings arise. Don't be afraid to let go of the old season. The new season will bring new strength, new wisdom, and new blessings. Change isn't always easy. It can be uncomfortable or even painful. But if you trust that God is leading you, you can rest assured that He never brings you to a place without a purpose. Embrace change, step out in faith, and know that God is using this moment to position you for something greater than you can imagine. Don't be afraid of what's next. God is already there waiting for you. Many of us are trapped in the lie that our present circumstances define our future. We look at where we are right now, whether it's a struggle, a setback, or a season of waiting, and we begin to believe that this is all life will ever be. But hear me clearly, your present does not define your future. Just because you're facing challenges now doesn't mean that's how things will always be. Just because you're in a tough season today doesn't mean you're destined to stay there forever. God is in the business of turning things around. He specializes in taking situations that seem hopeless and breathing life into them in ways you can't even imagine. Think of Joseph. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. His situation looked bleak, but Joseph didn't stay there. He trusted that his present circumstances weren't his final destination. What happened? God used those very situations to position him for greatness. Joseph went from prison to the palace, and God used him to save a nation. His present did not define his future. God did. Today, whatever you're facing, remember this. Your future is in God's hands. Your circumstances may tell you one thing, but God's plan for you tells you something far greater. You are not stuck. You are being positioned, prepared, and shaped for the purpose God has for you. Your current reality is just the beginning, not the end. Don't let where you are now make you think that's where you'll always be. God is moving you forward. Your present is just a chapter in the book, not the whole story. Keep pressing forward because the best is yet to come. Your future is brighter than you think, and God is already working behind the scenes to bring you into a place of abundance, peace, and purpose. Don't let today's struggles convince you that your future is limited. Your future is limitless with God. In a world that demands instant results and quick fixes, perseverance is often overlooked. But perseverance is key to unlocking what God has next for you. It's easy to start something, to feel passionate when things are going well. But real growth and breakthroughs happen when you keep moving forward, even when it feels like nothing is happening. God is not just concerned with the destination, but with what happens along the journey. Every step you take, even when it feels like you're not moving forward, is part of His perfect plan. Perseverance isn't just about enduring tough times. It's about allowing God to refine you in the waiting, in the struggle, and in the process. Think about the Apostle Paul. He didn't have an easy journey. He was shipwrecked, imprisoned, beaten, and mocked. But through it all, he persevered. Why? Because he knew that God was at work in him and through him, even during the hardest moments. And Paul's perseverance led to a powerful ministry that reached the ends of the earth. If he had quit halfway through, we wouldn't have the letters, the encouragement, and the teachings we hold dear today. Perseverance means you keep moving forward, even when the road is tough. It means you don't give up when the promises seem distant or when the struggle feels overwhelming. Perseverance is trusting that God is not finished with you yet. He's still working, still shaping, still preparing you for the breakthrough that's coming. So when you feel like quitting, when the weight of the journey feels too heavy, remind yourself that your perseverance will bear fruit. God is working in ways you can't yet see, and every step of faith you take is positioning you for the future He's promised. Keep going, keep trusting, because the reward for perseverance is always greater than the sacrifice. We live in a world that encourages us to take control, to plan every little detail, and to manage every outcome. We often think that if we hold tightly onto the reins of our lives, we can guide our future in the direction we want. But I'm here to share something that might be uncomfortable for you to hear. True peace comes when we let go of control and put our trust in God. It's true that we were never meant to carry the weight of control. It's draining, overwhelming, and eventually leads to frustration. We may think we're in control, but life has a way of reminding us we're not. Things happen, situations change, and doors close. Take a moment to reflect on the example of Abraham. God called him to leave everything he knew and follow him into the unknown. Abraham didn't have a clear plan, a map, or any promises about what lay ahead, but what he did have was trust. He let go of his need to control the outcome and chose to follow God's lead. In doing so, Abraham stepped into the greatest blessings of his life. When you surrender control, you open yourself to God's perfect will, His perfect timing, and His perfect plan. Holding on to control gives us a false sense of security. It makes us feel safe, but God's security is far greater than anything we can make for ourselves. He holds your future, your path, and your destiny in His hands. When you let go and trust Him, you're saying, God, I believe you know what's best for me, even when I can't see it. So today I encourage you to release your need for control. Surrender your plans, your fears, and your anxieties. Trust that God will lead you exactly where you need to go. Let go of the burden that isn't meant for you to carry, and watch how God works in ways you could never have orchestrated on your own. He's got it all under control. All you need to do is follow His lead. Have you ever caught yourself dreaming big, imagining the future, and picturing the best that life could offer? Even when we have the most ambitious dreams, God's plans for us are always bigger, grander, and more amazing than anything we can imagine. Sometimes we get so fixated on our own dreams that we forget how vast God's vision is for our lives. Our dreams are shaped by our experiences, our understanding, and our limited vision. But God sees the entire picture. He knows what you need, what you can handle, and what will bring glory to His name through your life. What seems impossible to us is nothing for God. He can accomplish more in a single moment than we can in a lifetime of striving. Take Joseph's story, for instance. As a young boy, Joseph had big dreams, dreaming of his family bowing before him. But God's plans for Joseph were even bigger than his own dreams. What Joseph didn't know was that God was preparing him to save an entire nation and become second in command over Egypt. Joseph's dreams were just the beginning of what God had in mind for him. God's purpose was far beyond anything Joseph could have imagined. In the same way, your plans may seem big to you, but God's plans are infinitely greater. He has a purpose for your life that is beyond your comprehension. The Bible says in Ephesians 3:20, "Now to Him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us." If you could see the incredible future God has prepared for you, it would blow your mind. You might not understand it right now, but trust that God is taking you to places you never dreamed possible. Places that will draw you closer to Him and fulfill His greater purpose for your life. So when you find yourself dreaming big, remember this: God is dreaming even bigger for you. His plans for your life are far beyond anything you could imagine. Surrender your plans and trust that the best is yet to come. One of the greatest fears we face is the fear of being alone, especially when we find ourselves walking through unfamiliar or uncertain times. It's easy to feel isolated, navigating the unknown with no one to turn to, no one to lean on. But let me assure you, you are never alone in the unknown. God promises in His Word that He will never leave you or forsake you. That means in every moment of uncertainty, every season of waiting, and every step you take toward the future, you are not alone. God is with you every step of the way. Think about Moses for a moment. When God called Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, Moses felt overwhelmed. He doubted his own abilities, questioned his worthiness, and wondered if he was truly qualified. But God didn't leave Moses to handle things on his own. God told Moses, "I will be with you," Exodus 3:12. Even when Moses was in the wilderness, when the path ahead seemed impossible, God was right there beside him, guiding him, providing for him, and leading him toward the promised land. And just as God was with Moses, He is with you. When you're walking through life's challenges, when you're standing at the edge of the unknown, never think that God has abandoned you. He is right there with you, surrounding you with His love, strength, and guidance. God knows what's coming next for you, and He will equip you for every step along the way. So, when you feel lonely, when the road ahead seems unclear, when fear tries to tell you that you're on your own, remember this: God is with you. You are not walking through the unknown alone. You have a mighty God who walks beside you, who guides you, and who will never leave you. Trust that you are covered by His presence and lean into that truth. He has already walked ahead to prepare the way, and He will continue walking with you every step of the journey. When life feels uncertain, when you don't know what's coming next, and when the path ahead seems blurry, it's easy to lose hope. But hope is the anchor that keeps your soul steady in life's storms. And the greatest source of hope you have is the promises of God. You see, God's promises are not based on your circumstances. They aren't shaken by the ebb and flow of life. His promises are eternal, unchanging, and full of power. When you put your hope in God's promises, you're anchored to something far stronger than your fleeting emotions or the temporary situations around you. You are anchored to God's truth. The Bible is full of examples of God keeping His promises in ways that seemed impossible at the time. Abraham, Sarah, Noah, David, each of them faced moments of uncertainty, moments where they couldn't see how things would work out. But they held on to God's promises, trusting that He would do what He said He would do. Take, for example, the story of the Israelites. They were enslaved in Egypt, oppressed, and seemingly forgotten. Yet God had promised to deliver them. Even when their present circumstances looked impossible, God's promise of deliverance was stronger than their reality. He parted the Red Sea, led them through the wilderness, and brought them into the land He had promised them. Today, you might not see the way forward. You might be in a place of waiting, in a season where the next step seems unclear, but God's promises still stand. He promises to never leave you, to guide you, to provide for you, and to give you a future filled with hope. No matter how difficult your circumstances seem, remember that God is faithful to fulfill His promises. Hold on to hope. Hope in God's promises isn't wishful thinking. It's a confident expectation that what He has spoken over your life will come to pass. He knows what's next for you, and He's faithful to bring it to completion. Your future is secure in His hands. Keep your hope anchored in His promises, because the best is yet to come. I want you to take a moment to pause and think about where you are in life right now. Perhaps you're facing uncertainty. Maybe you're standing at a crossroads. Or maybe you're simply in a season of waiting. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, like you're walking blind, unsure of what the future holds. But I want to remind you of something that will change your perspective. Today, God knows exactly what's next for you. You might not have all the answers, and that's okay. Because you have something far better. You have a God who sees the end from the beginning, a God whose plans are greater than your own, a God who is walking with you, guiding you, and preparing you for what's to come. When life feels uncertain, remember this: God is working behind the scenes. You are not alone in the unknown, and you are not left to figure everything out by yourself. His timing is perfect, His plans flawless, and His love for you unshakable. Every challenge, every setback, every season of waiting is not a sign that God has forgotten you. It's a sign that He is preparing you for something greater. He's refining you, strengthening your faith, and positioning you for the blessings He has in store for you. You might not see it now, but God is working in ways you can't yet understand. So let go of fear, let go of doubt, and trust that God's promises are true. You are on a journey, and even if you can't see every step ahead, you can trust that God does. His plans for you are bigger than you can imagine, and the best is yet to come. Keep walking in faith even when you can't see the way forward. God knows what's next for you, and His plans for your life are filled with purpose, peace, and a future that's brighter than you can begin to comprehend. In conclusion, no matter where you are today, trust that your tomorrow is in God's hands. He knows what's next for you, and when you put your trust in Him, He will lead you to places you never dreamed possible. Keep faith, keep hope, and know that your future is secure in His hands.